He took that Sawzall.
So in Shayna's one. That's so good
job,
Hello there. I am so glad you're here because we are celebrating something big at Pin Cut Sew today. Well, this happened actually I think 10 days ago. My channel hit 100,000 subscribers.
Quite a journey.
Well done. Yeah. And in the YouTube realm, this is a really big deal. They give you your cool little silver play button plaque. Mine is still in the mail. But after hitting 100,000, I put on my communities tab and asked for questions so that I could film a little Q&A as something fun and different. I do get a lot of questions more and more as time passes, and thought that hitting 100K would be kind of a fun way to celebrate with all of you who have helped me make this channel what it is. Your feedback and your comments and your questions are always such a fun part of the whole process. So I'm Nikki, this is Pin Cut Sew. If you're new here, I'm so happy that you're here. And if you're an old timer and have been here for a long time, thank you, thank you. I so appreciate you. And I'm just really proud of what we've made together. And I truly, truly believe that the sewing community, as far as all social media communities go, the sewing community is so nice. They're just so kind. And while I am a part of several other types of hobby communities online, no one is as nice as the sewing one. So thank you for being here is what I'm trying to say. And let's just hop right into it. I did get a lot of great questions. Some are just for fun. Some are more like technical sewing questions, and some are YouTube questions. So there's a big variety. So I'll try to get through them without too much droning on. Okay, so let's just get started. First question. How do you stay focused enough to finish projects? I have so many on my list and YouTube is horrible for my list, meaning there are just so many ideas. I have no less than 5 projects in various states on my sewing table plus 20 in the wings. This is a common problem, I know. I do actually have a full video on finishing things. Finishing things takes discipline. There's kind of no other way around it, but there are some ways to trick yourself, to gamify things. If you're a box checker, make a list. I actually have sticky notes on my wall of upcoming videos, and it's really fun for me to be able to check it off and take it off the wall. Sometimes if you can just see yourself having made progress, it's like a snowball and you want to make more progress. So you can also set some rules for yourself, like, okay, I'm not going to start that until I finish 1 thing or 2 things or whatever. Or I am not allowed to buy fabric until I finish this 1 thing. So if it helps to give yourself deadlines, whatever, but I am going to link that video on finishing things because it has a lot more tips. I truly feel like finishing things is one thing that I'm actually pretty good at, but part of it is because my space is really small. So I don't have room to put things that I am just working on in progress. There's nowhere for them to go, literally. So I'm committed to living within my small space means, and that helps me finish things too. Okay, moving on. What is your go-to batting for a quilt, and do you buy just what you need or a whole roll? I have never bought a whole roll of batting. I don't know where I would put that. Even when I had a big space, I've never done that. If I'm making a twin quilt, I buy a twin package of quilt batting. I do have a new favorite. It's the Pellon Bamboo Blend. I've also used a lot of Warm and Natural. I try to steer clear of polyester, personal preference. Polyester is sweaty. So I try to use natural fibers, and I just like the weight of them, and I think they're easy to sew through. They're not high loft, but they're still warm. So I'll put a link to my favorite batting, and the answer is I only buy what I need. And I don't buy it if I can Franken batting together pieces that I already have. Okay, next question. You have a small space. Do you have storage elsewhere in the house that may be a little secret, if you know what I mean? And yes, I do know what you mean. And the answer is surprisingly probably no. I don't have secret stashes anywhere. I have this 8x8 room, and I have a tiny, I have like a hall closet right outside the door that I have my cabinet in. I'm not lying about having stashes elsewhere. I really don't have stashes elsewhere. We have a house with 5 people, 5 adult-sized people. All of us have our separate hobbies. Mine is confined to this room. So although my daughter Layla, you know Layla, she did remind me I have a bin, like a plastic tub, like the Husky tubs, of like my dolls and things that I make for this channel that I can't sell or gift away because I need them for future promotional reasons and to like make an appearance in future videos. So I have one bin in our storage room with that stuff in it. Otherwise, no, it's all in this little space. Let's see next. I know from your house tour video that you don't sew curtains, but do you ever sew smaller projects like seat pads for dining chairs or do any upholstery? It's true, I don't sew curtains. I have sewn plenty of curtains, but I don't like to. I don't feel like it's cost effective. If you're at all particular about the fabric you want, then it's cheaper to buy curtains and it's so much easier. Curtains are a pain in the rear to make. I have made them, but I prefer to buy them. Home deck, it's true, is not my favorite, but I have done it. I do it when I need something custom. Like I have this giant fireplace right now with like stone benches on either side. And I would really love for them to have cushions. I'm gonna have to make those because you can't buy those in very specific sizes. And then recently we got a new dining set, a 1950s Ethan Allen set that we got. Okay, long story. My daughter Layla, you know Layla, she works at an estate sale company and he had this Ethan Allen dining set in their showroom and it was on clearance and it was super cheap, solid wood, mid-century, exactly what we were looking for. So we got it for an absolute steal. It's awesome, but it had really ugly seat cushions. So yeah, I reupholstered those. But it's not even sewing, it's just stapling, you know? And so yeah, I've made things like that. I have twice in my life made the mistake of saying yes when people asked me to reupholster their furniture. I was young and dumb. It was a learning experience, and actually it was like a fun experience. Like I helped a friend recover her living room set when both of our husbands were deployed, and it was just fun to hang. But it's not easy, it's not fun, it's difficult, and I don't do that. Especially when people frame it like, can you help me recover my furniture? Like, come on. Who's helping who here, really? Moving on. Do you have any other hobbies apart from sewing? Why, yes, I do. People who have hobbies tend to have more than one, right? I have other hobbies. My top ones are definitely photography. You can actually follow my photography account on Instagram. I do that purely for fun. I had a tiny inkling of turning that into a business, but for some reason I only like to do it for fun. I have done plenty of portrait sessions for family and friends who I love, and I do ballet photography for my daughter Natalie, who's a ballerina, and her friends, and I'll do family photos, and I like street photography and vacation photography and that kind of stuff. And so you can see some of what I've done on that account if you want to. Otherwise, I love to read. I've always been a massive mystery reader. I'm an Agatha Christie super fan, and so anything like that, right up my alley. I love to read. I read theology, history, science, all kinds of obscure stuff. I mean, I crochet and knit in the winter only for some reason. But yeah, I would say sewing, photography, reading, those are my top 3. Okay, next. There are a couple of businessy YouTube questions. The first is, who videotapes your shows? I think it's cute she called it a show. That's fun. What's involved with that piece of it, including the cost? And then someone else said, I'm a cross stitcher, have been thinking, she's thinking about creating a channel. It would be just for fun for her because she works full time. She wants to know how much I plan for a video, how difficult it was to learn the editing part. She is computer savvy, but this would be new. Okay, so starting a YouTube channel is not a fast endeavor, but there are things in this life that you can only learn by continuing to do them. And by trying it and then improving on it. This is one of those things. You cannot start a YouTube channel that is perfectly done out of the gate. It's just like learning photography. I've taught photography to high schoolers in our homeschool co-op twice, and you just cannot get better at it if you don't just constantly take pictures and improve. And so YouTube is one of those things that if you really want to do it, just make a video and see what happens. It will not be great compared to your 100th video. But I still have not removed my very first videos from YouTube. I've never removed anything because I'm not ashamed of progress. I'm not ashamed to have been a beginner at some point. And there are things about YouTube that you'll just pick up along the way. But this is kind of my philosophy for life in general. If you want to do something, just start doing it and see what happens. You do not need to be perfect at things before you start them. And you don't even really have to know what you're doing. Also, you can make your first video, edit it, and then decide never to post it. It's fine. At least you made one, and the next one you'll make better. So if you want to start a YouTube channel, just start. I started my first videos on my phone. My husband convinced me to make that first video, and I was worried about the editing part. And he said, just do it. I'll edit it. And so he did. On iMovie, he edited it. And after that, I was like, that doesn't seem very hard. So I'll do it. And then last year, my daughter Layla took over the editing for me. She's so good at it. And I pay her to do it. It's good money for her. And she's learning a skill that she can apply to her future. And it just kind of it evolves naturally. So now obviously I have better gear than I had when I started. And I know more about storytelling, about everything involved. So just start. If you want to do it, just start. As far as who films for me, I film for myself with the exception of like my home tour that Layla helped with and the quilt sandwich that Layla helped with. Otherwise, I film myself. I have an overhead setup that holds my camera. I use a Sony a6400 for both photography and videos. I have a ring light phone holder that helps sometimes, and I have a really nice tripod that can get overhead shots and everything. So I've just learned, even in my tiny space, to film with the gear that I have. It's easier to just do it myself than try to have somebody else work around me trying to sew. Moving on. What are the pros and cons of English paper piecing hexagons to sew or not to sew through the paper? I have seen a couple videos of each. Thank you in advance. I'm really not sure what she means by this, other than maybe when you're sewing them all together, you leave the papers in, or do you quilt it with the papers in? I have never heard of anybody doing that. I definitely think you should remove the papers. If you forget one or miss one, I know that people say it's fine, it'll just dissolve in the wash, but my templates were like lightweight cardboard almost, and I did accidentally leave one in, but I had applicated onto the background of Layla's quilt, and so I could just snip the background and tear it out. And then during the quilting process, you would never know that was there. But I hope that answers that question. I'm not really sure. I would remove the papers. I wouldn't sew through them. Okay, then I had a few military related questions. I'm an Army wife. I have been for our entire marriage. My husband joined the military while we were dating actually. And we got married when I was 19, he was 20. This will be our 23rd year. So it's been a long time in the Army. He has, let's see, what are the questions exactly? Where do you live? Are y'all moving with the Army anymore? We currently live in Kentucky. This is our 7th state. And the next question is, are you close to retirement? And do you plan to stay in Kentucky if you are? The answer is yes. Casey is close to retirement. He does new retirement math kind of every week, depending on how much he's liking his job currently. And also just our life circumstances, how my business is doing, our children, like our oldest has graduated and she's connected now with the ballet here, and so she'll be staying. And so now the thought of moving away and leaving someone behind is like, ugh, I don't want to do that. So we actually really love Kentucky. We love Louisville specifically. Like, this is the best, most fun city if you love the arts, if you like things like vintage shopping, going downtown, coffee places, food. We are closed in by some rivers on 2 sides, and it's just like so much fun to live here, and it's the kinds of things that our family really loves to do. So we do want to stay. And whether or not Uncle Sam will allow us to do that remains to be seen, but that is our plan. Yeah, to stay. And then the next question, what was your favorite duty station and why? And have you ever done any Hawaiian applique? This person must know that we did live in Hawaii. It's really, really hard for us to pick a favorite because we have been happy everywhere. I think when you have a secure and happy family life, then no place is miserable. Some places were harder socially, some places were harder like logistically. My husband deployed once, so I don't remember that duty station as being very fun, but there's been such good things about every place. Like, obviously Hawaii is so fun to live. Getting around can be a challenge. There's just so many people, so the crowdedness will get to you. But of course, living in Hawaii, you can't beat that. The weather, I loved it. I never missed winter. Utah was absolutely gorgeous. We had a mountain view right in our front yard. It was beautiful. Lots to do outside there, but that's where my husband deployed from, and socially I found it really hard. Although, like, some of the people I miss the most I met there. So North Carolina, we absolutely loved the community we found there, and then that's when I became a Southerner at heart because I love Southerners. They're so nice and friendly. So I feel like Kentucky, Louisville at least, is like a good mix of the West and the South. We grew up in Denver, so we've just lived in a lot of different kinds of places. As far as Hawaiian applique, I have not tried it. I would like to though. This big book of quilts I have. Let me just find the Hawaiian section so you can see what she means by this question. It's a very specific aesthetic, Hawaiian quilting. It's usually kind of like a snowflake. You know when you make paper snowflakes and they turn out symmetrical? That's kind of what Hawaiian quilting is like, and it's hand appliqued onto a background. So it is something I would like to try. I actually have a pattern that I bought while I lived there at the fabric store, Hawaii Fabric Mart, I think it was called. And so yeah, I want to try that in the future. I also want to try Cantha. I want to try all kinds of things. Okay, next fun question. What is your favorite Starbucks drink order? I love coffee. We get coffee all the time. We actually do school a lot at a coffee shop, so I call getting coffee a homeschooling expense. But however, my coffee order is quite boring. I order cold brew with cream everywhere we go. Occasionally I will get like 1 pump of vanilla in there, but only if they use really good vanilla. So we don't go to Starbucks super often because Louisville has really good local coffee. Sutter Goss is my #1 favorite, but Heine Brothers is the other one, and it's everywhere. We have a lot of those, and they make some really good cold brew with cream. So that's what I order. It's boring, sorry. For biological reasons, I just can't handle a ton of sugar, so I had to eliminate sugar in my coffee many years ago. And now I can drink more coffee because it's not sugary. Okay, next. This is a good question. Please, can you help with where to cost effectively buy quilting fabric in many colors? Do you buy fat quarters, jelly rolls, thrifted fabric, or question mark, question mark, question mark? I have never bought a jelly roll, but otherwise, yes to all of those things. I do buy fat quarters. I do buy yardage. I use thrifted fabric. She said, oh, I thought she said solid colors. She said in many colors. I should make a video on building a decent stash because you've seen my sewing room. My stash is not big. Well, you know what? It's funny. It's kind of relative because I've had people say my stash is giant and I've had people say my stash is so tiny. But I really try to keep it tamed, and when it starts to overflow, I clean it out or use some things up. And so when I notice that I'm trying to make something and I don't have enough like purples, for example, I might go shopping just for some purples to like build up what I'm working on. And there's been times when I have bought, like I bought a fat quarter pack of solids. That's how I made that cool mid-century quilt, because I find myself gravitating towards prints. So I have a ton of prints and not very many solids. So I think you just kind of have to work on things, and then maybe you'll notice what's missing. And then I do go like on Etsy or even Amazon sometimes, but not as much now that fabric.com is gone. Fat Quarter Shop, or what's the other one I like? I can't remember. Anyway, or to my local quilt store or to Hobby Lobby or whatever, and just get small cuts of the things that I'm missing or the things I feel like I'm needing. Like when I was working on my house quilt, I needed those little pictures, so I ordered a Heather Ross package on Etsy. And I also I was loving seeing quilts on Instagram that had what we call low volume prints. So they were like white on white, but they weren't just solid white, and I thought they were so cute. So I ordered like a scrap bag on Etsy. That's a great way to build up your stash of certain colors, because if you order on Etsy a little bit more specifically than just like a grab bag, if you type in like a certain designer grab bag or like purple fabric scraps or whatever, then you're more likely to get things that you want and need. So be a little bit specific when shopping for scrap bags, and don't just take whatever, because like if you're like me, I'm particular about things I like and don't like. So also you can if you join like a quilt guild, I know they often have like free tables. You can leave some and take some, so that's another good way. My camera battery died while I was talking like a big jerk, so hopefully we got most of that last question. Okay, the next few questions are about sewing camps. I have made a whole video on making money with sewing, and I talked in that video about how I started out making money by teaching kids sewing camps and classes. And I have written a whole ebook on that topic. The reason I wrote the book is because I wanted to cover so much information. I wanted to give like every little tip and detail about the money, about marketing, about how to find students, what to do, like liability, all of that stuff is covered in the ebook. So I'm gonna leave that link in the description below. I'm out of breath just from getting like a new camera battery. Gosh. So one person said, I'm thinking of running a sewing camp this summer. What ages and how many kids is ideal? I started with ages 8 and up, and I taught 6 at a time, and they shared 3 machines. I prefer the sharing. Later I had a machine per student. I preferred the sharing, and I cover all of that in the ebook too. The reason 8 and up I discovered is best is because sometimes I would have a 7-year-old that I allowed in, and they just needed a lot more help. They don't have the dexterity with the scissors and all of that. So if you're gonna allow 7-year-olds, I would have fewer students or have enough older students or helpers to be more hands-on with those. There seems to be something magic about the age of 8. Someone's like running a vacuum. And then another person said, I'm really interested in transitioning my career into a teaching artist. My dream is to teach kids to sew. I'm stuck on the logistics of the business end of a freelance teaching artist career. She asked about contracts for the campers and parents to sign to keep you and your business safe from liability issues. Did you have to establish yourself as a business before you offered classes? All of those little things. She wants to have her ducks in a row. And then she says, sorry if this is all answered in your ebook. All of this is answered in the ebook for sure, but you'll need to check into your specific state, and you can also call your homeowner's insurance and make sure that anything you do in your home is covered, or if you need anything additional. I did have a liability release. I had all parents sign. I did get a business license, I believe in Hawaii, and then in Utah, I don't think it was required. And at this point now, like, I have an LLC and everything for all of this. So if I were to start teaching again now, that would be covered under my LLC to prevent me from being sued for liability. But yes, the liability waiver is important. All of these questions and things are answered in the ebook. So if you have any more questions, and then there's like tons of project ideas, it's the absolute easiest, fastest way to make money with your sewing, especially if you are a retiree, or if you're a mom with little kids, or if you want to stay home and you want to make money with sewing. That's the way that I feel like is the fastest to get going. Because otherwise, well, that other video talks about a lot of this too. Craft fairs can be really difficult. Selling online can be difficult. And starting something like I'm doing here, YouTube and blogging and patterning and things, those things are so fun, but they do take a lot more time to get going. So if you need to make money starting soon, teaching is a great way to do it. I absolutely loved it. It was some of the best experiences of my life. Here's kind of a more serious question. I think I have a few questions left. Yeah, just like 3 or 4. Hope this isn't getting too long. How do you stay positive when you get disappointed or upset? So this is a pretty deep question, and it would be different for everybody. I am a person of faith. So for me, I don't believe I'm in charge of my own life. And I believe that the one who is in charge of my life has only my good at heart. And so when you realize that you just are not in control, I think it's so much easier to relax and have hope instead of anxiety. But I'm still a human person. I do deal with anxiety. Disappointing things do come along, but the longer I have lived, and especially as a military wife and also with raising kids, the more I realize that I have this history of things that I wouldn't have chosen for myself in the moment, but I can see the good that came from them. And so the longer I live and see those things and look back at that history, the easier it is to relax, release control, and trust that difficult things do provide good fruit and good traits, and they result in good things for me and for my loved ones. So, but for more in the moment advice, I know about myself, and I think it's true of most people, that your initial feelings and emotions are you really just need to give yourself an hour to let things process, and then things will seem different and better and more overcomable after a little bit of time has passed. That first onrush of emotions is really, like, it's okay to feel those things, but they're not usually trustworthy. So when I also encourage my teens in this same way. I know a lot of parenting advice on like Instagram and stuff, people say, you better be willing to talk to your teens into the wee hours of the night because that's when they want to talk. I feel the opposite way. I don't think that anyone is rational in the middle of the night. I know that I'm not going to give my best advice when I'm tired, and I know that their problems seem so much more magnified at night when they're tired and when something has just happened than it will seem in the morning. So they can vent, tell us what happened, but then we go to bed, and sure enough, in the morning, things do not seem as serious. I feel like also in these communities, because the Bible says don't let the sun go down on your anger. That's true, release your anger, but you don't have to hash things out with your spouse when you're both really tired and something has just happened. Let it go to sleep, work it out in the morning when you have a little bit more humor about the whole thing, and it will just be better for everyone. So that is my advice. Feel your emotions, don't let it slip into anger, resentment, or blame. Feel your sadness, your disappointment, and then give yourself some time to process before you take any action. I hope that helps. Next question. I recently found your channel and have been watching your videos daily. I've been quilting for years by the rules and find your more casual and artistic approach to quilting a breath of fresh air. You really inspire me to make my dream quilt a free-form art quilt. What tips do you have for someone coming from the rigid rules of quilting background to more freestyle quilting? This is a great question. My house quilt and more recently Layla's flower garden quilt really brought me back to my love for improv quilting. And I think if you're wanting to get into it, my first tip is to try something smaller, like one of these or something, or just to start making blocks to see what you like. And I think as you make things and you put colors together and you have to problem solve, a quilt just evolves. You can go in with some semblance of a plan, but if you're used to rigid, by the rules, pattern only quilts, then you need to allow yourself some time and space to just play and see what happens and not expect very much from it. If it turns into a great quilt, so be it. If it doesn't, now you have some blocks that you can turn into other things by watching my last video about things to do with your orphan quilt blocks. Also, go on Instagram and find the hashtags for improv quilting and art quilting. There is so much amazing inspiration there. And there are some books too. Like, I'm just a big proponent of, what would you call it? Using inspiration over using patterns. I think that you can get a lot of inspiration from different quilts, and some books are really set up that way. I just got a new quilt book. Let's see, it's called... Kind of nice filming here with my laptop right next to me. Wow, I order a lot of things on Amazon. Still scrolling. Oh, here it is. Okay. Inspiring Improv. Explore creative piecing with curved strips, slabs, and more by Nicholas Ball. And it's really great. That's how I made the little fish block that's on my board right now. He just has like ideas, and then you get to decide how to put them into a quilt. And this is the kind of book that I love. So teaching a technique without providing an exact pattern. So just jump in and try things. I know that you'll have fun. I can't wait to see what you make. I hope you'll share it with me when you make one. Okay, 2 left. When I'm working with white, pre-cuts especially, fabric, sometimes I have a hard time telling the right side from the back, especially the pre-cut since the selvage is gone. Any suggestions? This is kind of tricky. I think she means not like solid white, because that doesn't have a front or a back, but whites like that might be like printed. So like this has like a very subtle print on it. And if you have eyesight issues, I can see how that might be hard to tell. So my only advice, I think, is to mark it somehow before you start cutting it up. So either with washi tape or painter's tape, or a marking chalk pen or something. I'm not really sure. So if you have experience with that and you have come up with a trick, please drop that in the comments so we can all learn. Okay, next question. Can you make a video show and tell style with all of your quilts? Yes, I can. That is a great idea. I love that idea. It's on the list. And number 2, can you explain how you made the half square triangle border on the center star block on Layla's flower garden quilt? I have regrets, okay, because I did not document or take measurements or anything when I was making that center star. And now so many people have asked me about it. Where's the pattern? How did you do it? Etc. I've gotten emails about it, and I feel bad because I didn't intend to make it into a pattern. It's also not perfect. I said that in the video. And so also it just was taking a lot of brain power just to make that I couldn't document it at the same time. So my best advice is because you can find a giant star. I'm not sure what it's called. I'll try to find it, and if I find it, I'll put like the text. I'll have Layla put text. Find a pattern for that center star, because it's an old-fashioned technique, like the center star shape. And then you can adapt that and put your hexes or whatever it is you want in the middle, or build the quilt out like I did on Layla's quilt. So if you can find that basic large star pattern, then you should be able to go from there. Okay, lastly, this has been really fun. Thank you very much. Several people noticed that the clock behind me in some of my videos, it's over there, was stopped at a certain time and wanted to know if that time was a significant time in my life. The answer is no. The battery died. But enough people commented on it to where I just replaced the battery, and now it has the correct time until daylight savings, and then it will be wrong for another 6 months. So this has been fun. I hope you've enjoyed it. If you have any other questions about what I have already said here, or any other general questions that this brought up for you, you can drop them in the comments. I love to read YouTube comments. Y'all are the best. I'm so excited to be celebrating 100K with you, and hopefully I'll get that silver play button and it will make appearances in future videos. I will see you all very soon. Bye. Hi friends, you're watching the Pin Cut Sewing YouTube channel. Today I have another tutorial for you. Ready? Your hair is sticking straight up. I just created a brand new pattern. Hi friend, I'm gonna make a different kind of video today. I'm very excited today to share with you my new sewing machine. Check it out, y'all. I got a lapel mic. Stepping up in the YouTuberverse. I don't always buy new things for my sewing room, but when I do, I make sure I tell you about the good ones. My sewing room is out of control, but I have barely nicked myself by rubbing my hand against it on accident. Okay, I finished it. Look, you guys! So, I am Nikki, this is Pin Cut Sew, and cheers and happy sewing!